Hi and welcome to the first installment of how to build your own PC and install your own operating system. Today I'll be showing you how to build your own PC. Now, the first thing I'm going to put in is the motherboard itself, because I find it easier to put in the motherboard in first, because that way you have plenty of space and it's the biggest object that has to go in to the case. You put it down and at the back. Now normally when you get a motherboard you have a plate which fits along the back corner of the panels, right there. A metal bit which aligns with all that, leaving there no gaps for the bits, the sockets, the USBs and stuff. When you put that in, you should have screw bits in the bottom. Once that's in, you screw it down to keep it secure so it doesn't fall all over the place. You lift it up, obviously, like this. You put it in, screw them in them holes. Now that the motherboard's secured by 6 screws, each corner and in the middle of the motherboard, there, is attached to the case so it won't fall about or get broken when movement. Next part is putting in the PSU, the power supply unit. It goes right at the top, right up here. It slots into the back, and there'll be screws around the back of it. Basically, right in the back here. Screw holes. Put screws in there. There'll be 4 screws roughly to attach it, to keep it in place so it doesn't fall off. Now the next step, the processor. Inserting the processor into here. This is the processor socket here. There'll be a lever at the side of it and a hook. So pull it out of the hook, like that, like so. So it's up like that, straight up. Then get the processor. The processor will have pins on the bottom. The pattern on the bottom tells you the way it goes. There's a certain way for the processor because of the pins. So insert the processor in the right way, like that, so it's in. Then push the lever down again, click it into place. That way the processor is secured into the socket. Now, next step, to make sure before you put anything on it, you've got some thermal compound with the processor. It'll be in a little tube and it'll be liquid. Now, to keep the processor cool, because the liquid keeps it nice and cool, put it on top of the processor, on the metal bit. Make sure you give it enough, and you're done for that part. Then you take the heatsink and the fan, put it on top, secure it. There'll be clips to secure it. There'll either be clips on the sides of it, like so, clips on each side, which fix to the side of the socket, or on some you have like little notches which attach through holes into the motherboard. Now the processor, the heatsink, is all been fitted in and it's secure, as you can see. You'll have a connector for the fan. Now usually the connector for the fan will be right at the top of the motherboard, and it'll be a 3-pin connector in which you just go in there like so. That way the fan will be running like that, it'll spin and everything else. Next part, you have these cables from PSU, power supply unit. You take them, the plugs will only fit one way, obviously, but you just push it in, connect it in so it's secure, and that's that part. Next, this part, on your motherboards you'll have this socket where there's 4 pins for the PSU. Now you'll plug that in to the motherboard just like that, whereas this is an older version of motherboard, so it doesn't actually have that at all. This part that I'm going to do in a minute, I'd advise doing it now because it would be the easiest time, because you're not trying to squish your hands in little places, nooks and crannies. You have these cables which come from the case. They're in there before you put the motherboard or the PSU in. They're for the front buttons and also the USBs, if there is any, and the audio output. These go in the bottom pins, but every motherboard has a different setup and layout for where the connectors go into the pins. But you'll have a booklet for your motherboard, and if you look it up, you'll have the pin codes and everything else, and you'll have the layout of where everything is and how to plug it in. Follow that instructions and you can't go wrong. Next part we've got to put in is the RAM. Now, the RAM, take it, put it in, open up the hatches, put it in there, push down, it will click in, and it goes right in that part. So, repeat again. And that's that. Next part we got to put in is a hard drive. Now, insert it so that the connector edge is facing that way into here. Over there, yep. Slot it in, and then down there put in screws to attach it so it doesn't move. Next thing you need is DVD-ROM. Take it right in the front. In the front here, you have to slot it into the top bit, like so. In the front way, because it won't go in the back. And then the same principle, screw it in there and there so it doesn't move. Next part is wiring everything up with electrics for the PSU. These connectors, they will go into the hard drive, and also they will also go into CD-ROM drive or DVD-ROM drive, whatever it is. Then we have the IDE cable. The IDE cable goes into, you have a blue socket normally for the IDE cable, and it inserts into there. Then you insert the other bits into the hard drive, into the hard drive and also into the CD-ROM or DVD-ROM drive. Now you've got all the complicated wiring in, now we can put in the graphics card. The graphics card goes in, it goes in that socket which is brown. It's a PC Express slot. Goes in here and it just fits in, and then it'll click in place and it'll be secure. But also, for extra security, there'll be a screw hole here to screw it in. So I'll do that to make sure and to make it better and stable. Well, that's that done. That's the PC built. Just double check, look over it, make sure there's no loose connections or connectors that aren't taken care of. So there will be some, but make sure the most appropriate ones, like the PSU fan, the graphics cards in, the hard drives in, the motherboard's secured, and the RAM's in, and the cables are all, the IDE cables are connected up, and there's power going to the CD-ROM or DVD-ROM, and there's power going to the HD, the hard drive. And you're done. As long as you've connected everything up fine and followed the instructions and the step-by-step, you're done. That means slap on the case side and shut it. Done. And then plug it all in, give it a shot. Once it's turned on, you'll need to install an operating system onto the hard drive. And that's what I'll be teaching you in the next step of this next time.